Good morning, it's Facebook Live. We are live on Tip Tuesday, doing a little jive this morning. The sun is shining so bright today. I had to lower, you can see it shining behind me. I had to lower the camera and get my head out of the light. That's amazing. Thanks for joining us. My name is Dawn Spiegelberg of Bodywise Bodywork, where moving your body frees your mind and elevates your spirit. This week, once again, we are going to talk about water, and we'll talk about free radicals. Does anybody know what a free radical is? We hear about them all the time. Fascinatingly enough, nobody really knows quite what they are and why it's unfortunate to have them or how to get rid of them. Before we get into the detail and content for this week about water and free radicals, I want to give a couple of spout-abouts. Number one, Cheryl Wilson of Wilsons for Health. Awesome person, was in I'm calling it Original Balance Strength class yesterday and had a fabulous time. She mentioned that she had been having a difficult time getting rid of some stiffness in her back, and just the 1 hour class yesterday helped alleviate some of that stiffness. So yay to Cheryl Wilson. Thanks for joining us. If you're interested in finding and rediscovering your original balance strength, that would be the strength that you experienced as a child when you first learned to hold your head up, sit up straight, and walk. It's called reflexive strength. Reflexive means it is a response to a stimulus that does not require conscious thought. Another spout about to Monty Montera, who joined us yesterday too. She was impressed by how quickly she became strong or was able to find her strength again. It hadn't actually gone anywhere. She was just tapping into it yesterday. So join us for Original Balance Strength. We've got rooming classes Thursday morning at 10 a.m. and Thursday evening at 6 p.m. I've listened to your feedback, and rather than getting together a couple of times a week, people prefer one time a week. So we've changed the outline of the class for one time a week for 1 hour for the next 3 weeks. So join us on Thursday. It's exciting. Let me know if you're interested. Leave me a message in the comments below. Send me an email at dawn@bodywisebodywork.com or give me a call, 206-898-5327. Those are the spout-abouts for this week. I would like to, I want to talk about today's water, free radicals. It's the content, and we hear about pH, but does anyone know what pH stands for? All you medical personnel out there probably do remember it stands for potential of hydrogen. So when we talk about pH, you've probably heard around about that our bodies tend to be acidic. Acidic means that it's low on the pH scale, so it's somewhere between 1 to 6. That's the acidic side. Water tends to have a pH of 7, and I think it's actually 7.2 or 7.4 or something like that. And the alkaline part of the scale is the upper portion, so that would be 7 through 10, 8 through 10, 7.5 through 10. So the exciting news is when your body is more alkaline, you are less likely to be susceptible to disease, less likely to get cancers, and also to get colds and the flu. What happens and how does our body become acidic? The state of acidity is the byproduct of, in the science world they call it combustion. Combustion is transfer of energy, and combustion is what our bodies do actually. Our bodies metabolize. So in the biological world it's called metabolism. In the rest of the scientific physics, mechanical engineering world, it's called combustion. And the results of combustion include heat. Guess what heat is in the body? Heat in the body is inflammation. Heat contributes to swelling and discomfort if the heat is prolonged over consistent long periods of time. And so when we talk about the potential of hydrogen, One of the byproducts of metabolism and combustion is free radicals. So what is a free radical? A free radical, let me define it for you. Do I have the definition here? Maybe not. A free radical is an intermediate stage, the byproduct of a molecule that's in an intermediate stage in a chemical reaction. Let's see. A radical is a bunch of atoms belonging to different elements with a positive or negative charge. So the problem with free radicals that everyone talks about being bad is that typically it's hydroxyl, it's the hydroxyl radical, which is just an H and an O, and the oxygen is missing an electron from the other hydrogen. So during chemical reactions in our body, we are breaking apart different atoms to create other things. And if we don't have enough cofactors, if we don't have enough of what are they called? Catalysts and enzymes to put the atoms back together, we end up with free radicals. Now get this, free radicals are things that happen naturally in our body, right? So free radicals are just the normal byproduct of us metabolizing. So when people talk about them being bad and us having too much, it's not necessarily that we have too much because we're consuming them. We have too many because we have less of the things required to change that free radical into a balanced molecule. So when we're talking about a hydroxyl radical, the thing required to balance that HO is another H. It could also be some other things that we have in our body. So if we have nitrogen, right, there's a chemical formula for what a carbohydrate is, what a protein molecule is, right? So basically, if you have a hydroxyl radical, it is a single H and a single O, and that oxygen is looking to fill the empty electron that's missing. Welcome, Diane Gickerd, my sister-in-law from Pennsylvania. Thanks so much for joining me. Welcome, Scott Bisbee. Thanks so much for joining me. Please leave some comments at the bottom about free radicals and what you may know about them. Another important thing to understand is that free radicals are something the body uses to regulate things like blood pressure and vascular tone. Superoxides and nitric oxide are two examples of things that are free radicals that the body uses to keep track of what our blood pressure and the vascular tension in our blood vessels needs to be. So that's an example of good radicals in our body. Persistent radicals, okay, so this is fun. I'm going to read this. Persistent radicals are generated in great quantity during combustion, and in our case, it's metabolism, and may be responsible for oxidative stress that results in the cardiopulmonary disease and cancers that are attributed to airborne small particles. So what can you do to reduce the occurrence of free radicals that don't get put back together with a balanced molecule? Water is essential. So here's an example of water. This is a container that still has a label on it. I'm sorry, my husband ditched all my non-labeled containers. And I want you to take a look at that water. Maybe you can't see it very well. I recommend you shake up your water, right? So water that we drink flows through the pipes, but it tends to be stationary for the most part. So I recommend that you shake up your water. Can you see that water? Oh yeah, check that out. I'll put my t-shirt behind it. See all those particles? That is oxygenating, super oxygenating your water. But it's not just super oxygenating it because there's more than merely oxygen in our atmosphere. So if you shake up your water and then drink it, it will taste different to you. I recommend leave water out, have a taste, then take some water, shake it up, and taste it. You will be super impressed at the difference in the water after you've shaken it. So you've added life to it. you've added more molecules to the water that you're drinking, and that's one way to prevent free radicals from bouncing around and being crazy and not pairing up with the molecules that require them to be in balance. Next week, I'm going to talk about water, and I'm going to talk about a machine in particular that produces a type of water that alkalinizes it, and it happens to be approved by the Japanese medical establishment as a machine best suited for use in hospitals for health reasons. So I'm excited to talk with you about that next week. We'll talk about why alkalinizing your water is so important, and it has to do with free radicals, and it has to do why it can decrease your likelihood of disease and keep you healthy and cancer-free. So that's a wrap for this week. Thanks for joining me. Please shake your water until next week when we find out more about alkalinizing that water and making the water into smaller molecules. That's very exciting. And until then, I want you to think head-wise, feel heart-wise, and move yourself body-wise. And my music's not coming. I don't know why. Sorry, guys. No music this week, but I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.